So you can really hear me croaking now. Okay, good morning everyone and welcome to the 2024 AGM of ARQRV. My apologies, I'm just getting over a cold. I've been croaking at everybody all week and I'd hoped that I would be finished by now, but no I'm not, so you'll just have to put up with me croaking, I'm afraid. So before we start, I'd like to welcome our guests. So we have 3 members from the Department of Housing here. Catherine Harvey, who is the Principal of Regulatory Services. Now we sit under the Department of Housing, Local Government, Public Works and Planning. That's where retirement villages sit. So these 3 people that I was supposed to introduce to you sit within the Regulatory Services Department, and they are the people that oversee that the regulation there is no breach of the regulation when operators are running their villages. So Catherine Harvey is the principal, although I believe she's the acting manager at the moment. Marina Andrews is the team leader, and we've got Michael Bell, who's the Senior Project Officer of Legislation and Reform. We also have, as a guest, Italia. Italia is the person we all have to be nice to. If there's any money available, it's Natalia's section of the department that hands out the money. So, all courtesy as you walk past her today, please. Okay, I also have ACPA, from ACPA, Megan Hobson. Megan is the liaison officer between for ACPA. ACPA is the Aged and Community Care Providers Association. So they are the peak body for the smaller operators and for aged care providers. And they do, for their members, I suppose, education, support, information. They do for their members who are operators what we do for our members who are residents. The other big body that aren't here today are the Retirement Living Council, and they sit within the Property Council. We also are pleased to welcome Danielle Lim. Many of you will know Danielle. She is the solicitor that always sits on all of our residents' committee Zoom meetings, and is always happy to answer questions from those meetings. And of course, Mike Richards, who is a sort of de facto member of our committee. Is that okay? Will that do? So Mark is the person who's been handling our disputes and mediation over the last couple of years. So welcome to our guests and welcome to all of you. We have 68 members in attendance. We have 9 guests. We have 8 apologies and 6 proxies. So the proxies forms you would have found on the Connect, August Connect newsletter, and the proxies forms were there and people have asked for proxies since then. So, the minutes of the previous meeting, now you would all have got copies of our minutes from the 19th of September, from the meeting that was held at the Kedron Wavell Services Club in Chermside last year. Now, all of those minutes actually came from the AGM Connect that you would have got earlier, and I'm sorry you haven't got one. So everyone, all our members received copies of the minutes. I'll give it to you. Okay. So, would someone like to move? I hope you've all had a chance to read those minutes. They were circulated in August. So Ray Jordan, our secretary, is moving that the minutes of the annual general meeting in August last year be accepted. Would somebody like to second that motion? Thanks to Meg Scott. Weather on the park. All in favour? Thank you, carried. Business arising from the minutes. There was no business arising from the minutes. And we'll go on to the next part. I just need to tell you, actually, I didn't say that to people. You're all on camera, so we've gone live. This is the very first time we've done this, and we are streaming live via YouTube. We can't see how many people are actually watching us. 10, 12? We've got 12 people who are streaming in to watch this meeting. Unfortunately, they can't participate. I don't know if any of you have ever watched YouTube in the past, watched a YouTube channel, but you can't interact when a YouTube channel is actually streaming. So we can just welcome those people who have joined us for our meeting, and please feel free at the end of the meeting, if there are any questions that you would like to ask, just write them into the office and we will be happy to answer any questions you might have following the meeting. Everyone else who is here will get the opportunity to ask the questions. So, we'll start with my report. Point that out as well. On your table, you will find just a sheet that says comments or questions. If you would like to give us feedback or ask any questions, please fill out one of those forms and just leave them on the table for us at the end of the day, and we'll get back to you with any questions or comments that you would like to make. So, I'm pleased to present my report for 23-24, which has been a really busy year for ARQ. We've seen very many changes in our organisation, and also we've seen changes in the broader society and the retirement village industry. I have written, you will see my report in the annual report that came out, so I'll just pick out some of the major points that I'd like to make, because I know it's still a problem for many people, and it was asked of us last year at the AGM. Comment was made about the age of people moving into villages. After talking about it for many years, the government is finally having to face this dramatic increase of a growing older population. The baby boomers have arrived, and they've arrived with a boom, because there are not the services to actually meet their health needs. There are not a lot of services. The majority of retirement villages are full. Nursing homes are closing down because they cannot make a profit, so there's been a big move and a big shift to change the way nursing homes are funded. People are going to age in place. The government wants us to live in our own homes for longer. And of course, your retirement village is your home. And so we're going to see a change in the demographic of the people living in retirement villages as they age in place. And that's just something we're all going to have to face. The villages, I think, are going to look very different in the next 5 or 6 years. We're going to see many older people moving into the village and people staying in villages for longer. And I know that this has been a concern to our members, but it is not possible for your operator to ask people to leave a village because of their age or their health issues. It has to be managed as, in the village. And obviously there are certain very severe chronic health issues that your operator must deal with. But just because you as a resident don't like it, that's not going to force the operator to evict someone from the village. ARQ has also had to think about the changing times, the changing demographic of its committee and also within the villages. We know that many villages are now struggling to get members onto a residence committee. We're working very hard with residence committees and with various village managers and operators to try and support residents in their role on a residence committee. We've written a residence committee manual. For those of you who have got a copy of our residence committee manual, do expect to see a new version out in the next few months. We've just rewritten it and updated it, and we've used some of the issues as we've updated that manual that have been raised to us by members of residence committees, the sorts of questions they have asked us. So we've been making sure that we put as many of those questions into that manual as we can. The issue for us too was that with people aging generally, that we were struggling to get as many members on the ARQ committee as we had been able to do in the past. We have employed Jodie Gorrell as our executive director. Now Jodie's come on board, one, to take on a much more management position in ARQ going forward. And I'll talk about that when I talk about the reasons we made that decision. But also, we were very lucky to be able to get some money through COTA, the Council of the Aging. COTA got significant amounts of money to run information sessions around the state on smart meters, cost of electricity, and assisting people to understand what the concessions are that are available to them, and what they can apply for and so on. So Jodie has taken on, as a major role at this point in time, the project officer for the Energy for Seniors project, and you'll find a table at the back of the room with lots of information on Energy for Seniors, and Jodie will be doing a presentation to us later today to talk about that project. And it's been a great opportunity for us to get someone on board because, as you all know, ARQ doesn't have a lot of money. It's been a great opportunity to get someone on board into an executive director position as the lead role in the Energy for Seniors project, and a very soft introduction to the work of ARQ. This year we also received a small grant from government for us to reach out to people thinking about moving into a village. There's very little information that's actually given to you when you're doing that beginning to look at and the contract stage. So you might have seen our ad in the senior newspaper, and it will be in the newspaper now till the end of the year. We also were on radio talking about the need for people to get legal advice and to understand what they are actually signing when they sign their contracts. So we have been reaching out to a few groups that we haven't reached out to before, talking about if you're going to move into a village, make sure you get legal advice. Ray and I have done a couple of men's sheds, which has been fun. Because, you know, the men in those, they're often not thinking about retirement villages, because as you guys all know anyway, it's the woman who decides who's going to go where in their older ages. So we have been working to reach out to people. Our video conference forums have really taken off this year. So every quarter, we run a residence committee forum, and all residence committees who have signed up to our support desk receive an invitation to attend that forum. It's run via Zoom conferencing. We always have officers from the department who attend that forum to talk to us about, you know, the updates and the issues that are going on for them in the department. We also have, as I said earlier, Danielle Lim attends and is always happy to give us a legal overview of any questions the Residents Committee may like to ask about their role as a Residents Committee. That's been really great because I think it's been very confidence boosting for Residents Committee to know that they've got a backup, that somebody's there, you know, supporting them in their role. We don't get involved. The Residents Committee Zooms are only always addressing the issues that Residents Committees have in their role as a Residents Committee. We've also done forums this year for our membership support officers. Our membership support officers are a representative in an individual retirement village. And their role is just to ensure that any new resident moving into a village knows and understands what ARQ does and how they can get involved and become a member of ARQ. So we really do appreciate our MSOs, our membership support officers, and we meet quarterly with them via Zoom as well. We continue to work on a range of issues and member issues within the village. I have to say there are probably a lot fewer issues than there were in the past. I think that's a combination of a number of things. I think that the legislation has certainly, and the compliance required by operators, the legislation has certainly tightened, and operators are now much more accountable to residents and to working within the framework of the legislation. And I also think that the education that we are putting out to all our members gives members a broader understanding of some of the issues and of also their roles and responsibilities within the village. You know, you move into a village, but it's not just, then you just wash your hands and the operator has to do everything for you. As a resident within a village, you do have a responsibility. You've got some obligations under your contract, but you also have some responsibility to other members of the community. As I said, we've renewed our working with COTA, which we had done a few years ago under the Building Consumer Confidence program. And there has been a lot of work done to establish our office to be able to be more responsive and also to be more efficient with the technology as we use it from day to day. I really do need to thank Pauline and Laurie, who are, Laurie's there, Pauline's over there. Look, Pauline and Laurie are the two ladies who work in the office. They are always happy to take your calls, answer your questions, and direct your call onto the appropriate committee member. We really appreciate the work they do. I hope that you've all noticed this year that we have got a different annual report. It's a different layout, a different look to our annual report this year. I have to thank Angela Jordan, who does all of our publications, our Connect newsletters every quarter, the posters, the banners that you may see around advertising ARQ. Angela does that. She's not on our committee. She does that in a volunteer capacity because she just loves designing things. So we are really lucky to have Angela to take on those publications for us. And a special thank you this year to Peter, Peter Smythe. Again, Peter's not on our committee. Peter was on our committee 8 years ago, and then he took off to go around Australia for a while. But he's come back now, and he's going to very happily volunteer himself to be a communication and tech person. Some of you might have met Peter. He's the guy who always sets you up committees. We ask committees to have a generic email address because the department is happy to send out information directly to residents' committees as long as it's not to a private email address. So Peter does help committees to set up generic email addresses. And later on today you'll hear about some of the things that ARQ are doing in terms of technology, and I think Peter is going to be very much the person who drives that. Peter started on driving us towards technology many years ago, and I resisted, but finally I think he's managed to get us all into technology now. So thank you for all the work you do in that area, Peter. And finally, my thanks to all the members of the committee we've had a great committee this year. We've worked really well together. It's been a pleasure working with you all, and I'm sure if you're leaving the committee this year, a couple of people have not re-nominated. We will catch up with them anyway. We often see people doing things for us even though they have left the committee. So thank you so much to all the members of the committee. And thanks to Mark also, who acted in the de facto role of our mediation and disputes. Twice in one session. That is the end of my report. Thank you so much. There's more detail in the actual annual report, but thank you. I'd like to call Les to the podium.
Good morning. The accounts for financial year 2023-24 show a net profit of $67,952, which was a far better result than the predicted budgeted loss of $76,562. The positive result was largely due to the $130,000 BCC funding grant received in February and the third tranche of the 4-year BCC grant amounted to $28,556. We cannot understate our appreciation of the grants provided to the association, and we would ask our guests from the Department of Housing to pass on our grateful thanks. The grants will underwrite the reworking of several of our manuals and the Association's planned education programs for our current residents and potential new residents. Our subscription income totals $71,899, although the budget income was actually higher at $92,800 due to an over-budgeting in our new light subscriptions of almost $18,000. This was partly compensated by the interest of $14,189 gained from our deposits. The product sales and support desk contributed $9,006, which included support desk subscriptions of $4,791 and manual sales of $4,215. The Association received donations of $5,892 in including a donation of $5,000 from the estate of a member grateful for the work of the AR2RB. Our operating expenditure was $14,114 under budget at $192,600. Our staff costs were $6,964 over budget at $93,756, mainly due to the costs incurred in the new COTA AR2RB project, which started in May, but there's no offsetting income received until July. The other major expenditures were IT at $15,747, our newsletter production and postage at $9,890, and our office lease at $18,218. Travel costs of $4,385 were expended by 3 members of the committee, who between them visited 31 villages during the year to provide information and assistance to resident committees. At the end of June, our balance sheet showed that our net assets were $399,556, which included 3 term deposits totaling $305,382. The 2024-25 budget predicts a loss of $140,909 after allowing for the 4th tranche of the BCC grant. $34,000 of that loss relates to our participation in the COTA AR2RB project and the potential long-term employment of our Executive Director. It is an unfortunate tourism that we all age, and it is essential that we establish a succession plan which will carry forward the AR2RB and expand its role. We are anticipating that our subscriptions will hold steady this year, but it is a fact of life that we rely heavily on other sources of support. As I've said in previous years, the AR2RB is an essential ingredient in our industry. It is the one body that speaks and works on behalf of our residents, but also takes a balanced approach as how we relate to both operators and legislators. Thank you. I now move the motion to accept the Treasurer's report for 2023-24. We have a seconder. Okay. All in favour? Oh, sorry.
Question. Aaron lives somewhere on the park. Just for the record, before you ask for support, can you just clarify for me, because in the annual report, the net profit is $67,942, and in the print document, it's $76,952. So I hate people to be voting on something that I'm sure it's just a typo, but it just needs to be cleared up.
Could you say the question again, please?
Yes, certainly. In the profit and loss, the net profit is shown as $67,942.27. And in the Treasurer's report, it shows a net profit on the first line there, a net profit of $60,952. Now you may have just rounded it up, but I just thought it should be clarified before people agree to that.
So you questioned it on $10?
No, I'm sure it's just a typo or you were rounding up, but I just thought the two numbers really should be the same, that was all.
The question is, so here you've shown a net profit in your report, and in the audit report, the net profit is a different amount. $10. It's probably yours. You have to go back there.
Yeah. Look, I have to have a look at it. I haven't got an answer at this stage.
No, look, I'm not inferring anything except that if we're going to vote, we need to just have the common number. I'm sure it's just a typo, but I'm just bringing it to your attention.
So we're voting on the auditor's report, not on
Okay, so we move a motion on the basis of accepting the press report with an amendment to match the auditor's report of the net profit of $67,942. Thank you. All in favour? Thank you.
Who seconded it? I will.
Can I also move a motion to reappoint David Unwin, accountants at Mooresville, as our auditor of the association for financial year 2024-25. You have a seconder?
I'll second that.
Brian? Yep. In favour? Thank you. So just before I leave the podium, could I just draw your attention to the budget assistance report that is in the document here. That is part of my function actually, is to assist villages and committees with their budgets. I just particularly want to make mention this year of the new regulations that have come in, together with the guidance materials that the department has issued. The reason why I want to mention is that the regulations that have been issued are a terrific document from the department, and they should be congratulated on the work that they've done, because that work will provide an enormous amount of additional information to committees from next year's budget, and also from the quarterly reports that follow. And the reason why I want to mention is the regulations that have now been stipulated are quite demanding on the operators, and there is an enormous amount of information that is going to flow to the committees. And I think it's fair to say that not many committees are familiar with the type of information that's going to be available to them. So I just want to mention that if you do need assistance in understanding and interpreting what the regulations imply, we're here to provide that assistance.
Thank you, Les. We are also hoping that once those guidelines and regulations have been released, that we will be running some Zoom meetings, smaller group Zoom meetings for residents committees and finance advisory panels to ask questions of us, and the department have agreed to be part of that, those discussions as well, to ask questions about the changes in reporting, financial reporting for operators for the year 25-26. So we can all look forward to a new year full of new budgetary information. She says with a bit of sarcasm in her voice, because unfortunately I am not one of those people who gets excited about financial figures. Although I know that there are a lot who do, but I'm not one of them. I'm going to make a slight change to our agenda now, because we were going to discuss the changes and vote on the changes to the Constitution. However, the department do have to leave early, so we will let them do their updates now and continue on with the rest of our agenda afterwards. So, This is
Good morning. My name's Rowena. I'm the team leader for the Retirement Village team in the Regulatory Services Department of Housing, and I'm slowly getting used to public speaking, as many probably know. Yeah, thank you. So I just wanted to do a quick rundown of what the Retirement Village team has been up to this year. Well, not this year, basically the last 6 months. And as you probably are aware, we're a small team. We only have a team of 5 people, and we are a very busy little team, so we try and do as much and as most as we possibly can. So currently, Queensland now has 333 registered retirement villages. So this year we've completed 3 registrations that were approved by the delegate, and these 3 new registrations are located in Goodna, Sunrise Beach and Baringa. We've had 1 cancellation of registration, and this village was located in Caloundra, and the residents actually voted in favour of this closure plan. The reason or the purpose for this village to close was because the village was 30 years old, and cost to maintain the infrastructure proved exceedingly expensive, and of course the age of the village wasn't attractive to any prospective residents, and of course there was a loss of sales. So that was an agreement by all residents to gradually close that village down, and upon closure a request is made to the department to cancel the registration, and we will cancel it upon a approved closure plan being submitted to the department. We've had 1 request for the Chief Executive to decide a revised redevelopment plan. So this is a village that is a new village, and it opened with a running redevelopment. It was going to be built in stages, and they've actually made changes to this particular village, so that redevelopment plan was voted down by the residents, and that redevelopment plan has come to the department for the Chief Executive to decide on that one. We've had, in the past 6 months, we've had 17 site visits, which range from site visits in Brisbane as well as far up as Cairns. We've sent out 5 Section 60 notices under the Fair Trading Act, and these Section 60 notices were to obtain retirement village bank account details to confirm that the retirement villages were operating with the correct 3 funds. Generally, we find the smaller villages don't use or operate the funds correctly, and we've had a little bit of compliance issues with the smaller villages. And of course, the department will assist with compliance and education on the operation of these funds, unless we see anything that's untoward or shouldn't be happening. The department has sent out 1 compliance advice letter for a scheme operator for a failure to have a current village comparison document on their website. And in the past 6 months, we've managed about 50 general inquiries, which range from phone call responses to written responses depending on the nature of the inquiry. We've managed 3 change of scheme operators after transition plans were implemented, and we've also managed 1 internal review for an outcome decision that was made by the department where there were no breaches detected. Currently the department is undertaking 2 major investigations, and these are again over the mismanagement of resident funds and using the general service funds and the maintenance reserve funds for other purposes other than they were intended. With this particular village, the department has sent a brief of evidence to our legal department, where we will wait advice from our legal department as to what action we'll take against the scheme operator in this situation. We've also, if the department takes on any major investigations, the 2 investigations that we have at the moment were identified through reviewing and auditing financial statements that were received to the department, which every retirement village must lodge their financial statement to the department within 5 months after the end of the financial year. If the department receives questions relating to expenditure and setting of the budget, or why the scheme operator spent too much on this particular item, the department will refer the resident or the inquirer to follow the process under the legislation, and in the first instance to request this information from the scheme operator. Generally, setting the budget or expenditure on the budget are not questions that we can answer at the first instance, and we do request that the scheme operator provide this information on the first instance. If the resident has requested this information and they don't receive a response from it after writing to the scheme operator, we do suggest that the resident contact the department, where we can contact the scheme operator and have a chat with them as to why that they haven't responded to the resident's questions. Old contracts. We've had several complaints made by family members of outgoing residents for reinstatement costs for contracts signed prior to the current legislation. New staff of scheme operators seem to not understand the older style contracts and may attempt to claim costs for reinstatement for above what was listed in their contract. So please make sure you're aware of what's written in your contract and that your family members are also aware. Older contracts that we've reviewed may mention that the reinstatement the resident is responsible for example, new carpet, flooring, interior painting and window coverings, and nothing else. In our experience, some scheme operators have attempted to claim monies to reinstate the unit to brand new and passing on all costs to the resident. We really stress that the residents know when their contracts were signed and under what legislation their contracts actually refer to. We've also seen older contracts where the reinstatement requirements that the resident must leave the unit in brand new condition, similarly to when they moved into the property. Sometimes the interpretation of brand new is different to a resident or a scheme operator. So it's really important to involve family or have your family understand what is required when you vacate your unit. Closure plans. When a village commences winding down, it's really important that the scheme operator commences engagement with the residents as soon as possible. For example, if a village decides to move from home ownership to rentals, depending on whatever reason they decide to do this, a closure plan should be implemented. And waiting for minimal homeowners actually defeats the purpose of the closure plan and its intentions under the legislation. The Act mentions winding down, and this could be a long and lengthy process that may take years. We've had closure plans submitted to the department, and the actual winding down of the village may be about 2 to 3 years, which is a completely normal process. And we understand that the residents are aware of what's happening, as well as the winding down of that village. The department doesn't actually intervene in a closure of a village. We don't say to the scheme operator that you can't close the village. The department, we will confirm the voting process was correct, and will review the closure plan and ensure that all residents are provided with suitable engagement. If the residents vote against a closure plan, residents will have the opportunity to lodge a submission to the department, and these submissions can assist the Chief Executive to decide on the closure plan. But as I mentioned, we don't stop the closure plan, or we can't force or compel the scheme operator to stop the closure of the village. Residents cannot dispute the closure of a village, and it's once again important that if you are not sure on the closure plan or what's happening, please contact the department or get support as well. So currently the team are in the process of implementing a compliance program where every financial statement, that's every financial statement for 333 villages, once they're received by the department, will be reviewed and assessed and provided with a certain risk category. based on the results of this compliance program and the risk level applied to each village, the team will be organising compliance visits and mostly focusing on the small standalone villages that are regional areas. So we've actually got a village in Longreach, and we have a couple of coastal villages way up near past Townsville. So hopefully in the new year we should be able to visit those villages and see how things are going with those residents and making sure everything's running smoothly. So that concludes my talk for today, and thank you for your time.
Hi everyone, my name is Catherine Harvey, also from Regulatory Services. I'm going to talk just about a couple of the other little things that our unit has been working on over the past year. But firstly, I want to do a big thank you to Rowie, who is the team leader for the RV team. And I want to let you know that you're all in good hands with her team. She's got 4 regulatory officers who work with her, and all of them are really passionate and enthusiastic about the Retirement Villages legislation. As a lot of you probably know, the Retirement Villages legislation is not an easy read, and it's not all that easy to understand either. And so it's important that we've got some people that are really passionate about making sure that they understand it and that we can implement it properly and make sure that people are compliant. So I just want to take my hat off to the team who are doing a fantastic job with some pretty limited resources. So I just want to talk about the fact that as a regulator of an industry, one of our key requirements is information. We can't regulate without information about an industry. So the way that we collect our information about your retirement village industry is through a number of different ways. We capture information on high risk matters, largely through complaints and inquiries that we receive from residents. So that's one of our really important sources of information, and when we're out on site and we talk to people, and normally on days like today, a lot of you would probably know that we normally hang around afterwards and have a chat to people who want to come and talk to us. That's how we find out really what's going on in an industry. We also talk with groups like ARQRV who provide us with loads of information and insight into the industry as well. So I just want to put that out there, that's something that we do. It's really important to us. Also, with our proactive compliance program, so Rowie was just talking then about the program we've got coming up where we're going to be reviewing a whole lot of financial statements. Normally each year we go through what we consider to be the more high risk financial statements. We don't have the capacity to look at them all, but we've got some specific things that we're looking for this coming year, and Rowie's team will be all over it and doing a bit of a risk assessment so that we can figure out who it is that we really need to look at. One of the other areas of information that we gather is from VCDs, so your village comparison documents. And if you've ever had a look at a village comparison document, you will see that there is a load of information that is provided in those documents. And up until recently, the department hasn't really had the capacity to extract that information. So we've got this wealth of information. In a VCD, you can see what the average ingoing contribution is, or the range of the ingoing contributions. What are people paying to move into villages? What fees are people paying every week in every village? How long does it take to sell a unit in every village across Queensland? So there is a wealth of information. How many different units are there, and what types of units are there on offer? Where are the vacancies sitting? What types of contracts are there? Who gets capital gain on their contracts, and all the different offerings of different villages. So we've had this real problem where we collect all this information, but we haven't been able to use it. Well, over the past 12 months, we've been working on a project where we are digitising, I think is the word, digitising the village comparison document. And so it will become an online form, so when operators have to update their village comparison documents, they're going to do it online. It will automatically update our database, and we will capture all of that information, which gives us enormous reporting potential. It also gives us a big insight into your industry. So one of the things that Rowie touched on is that we're A lot of the legislation revolves around the financial management of residents' funds in villages. Clearly, because it's very important. You all pay a lot of money to move into a village, and you pay money through ongoing fees to make sure that that village is properly managed. And so we like to keep an eye on that as well. That's part of our role, is to make sure that operators are managing your monies correctly. So once we can start doing this reporting from these village comparison documents, we'll have a lot more insight, because in those comparison documents it shows us who had a deficit last year for their general services fund. We can see what the fees are from year to year. We'll be able to report on which villages had a general services contribution increase greater than CPI, all sorts of things. So we're very excited. we're information nerds when it comes to your retirement village industry, and we can't wait to be able to report a little bit better and prioritise our compliance activities a little bit better as well. So that's one thing that we're excited about. Something that Les touched on as well is the new regulations. So if you haven't seen them, this is what they look like. They are getting fatter. So this used to be a very skinny little book, and I'd say it's probably at least doubled in size. Would you say, Les? I'd say that's at least doubled in size. It's like half the thickness of the Act now. So the new regulations that came in largely revolve around financial reporting requirements. And some of you who are interested, not Judy, will get a glimpse of that when the first quantity surveyor reports, so any quantity surveyor reports which have been done after the 1st of July this year are required, have certain requirements, things that have to be in those reports now, which is new from last year, and also the budgets coming up. So next year, when you get your budgets for the 25-26 financial year, you're going to start to see some changes. Look, some operators are already doing what we're asking them to do now, but there are a lot of additional requirements. So you might see some changes, you might not. But we are looking to put some educational materials out, as Les alluded to. We did work on a first draft of the guidance materials. We put them out for consultation, and we got lots of feedback on those. And for those of you who participate in the resident committee meetings, you would have heard me say already, we got a lot of feedback, and not all of it was terribly positive. So we've gone back to the drawing board, and we're trying to make this guidance material really useful, particularly for resident committees. So we're focusing it more, aiming at resident committees so that you can get a better understanding of what the reporting requirements are, but obviously also for our scheme operators. So they will be released slowly. We've made a decision now that we'll release the guidance materials in stages, and the first stage will be quantity surveyor reports. So we'll put out some guidance material around what needs to be in quantity surveyor reports, and the next one, which will follow shortly after that, will be on budgets, because we know that budgets are hugely important, and this year's budget is going to look a little bit different to what it has looked like before, and there's going to be some issues around matching up information, but we won't go into too much detail about all of that. So I just wanted to let you know that they are some of the things that are coming up from us. We're very excited. We're still getting our heads around some of the requirements in the new regulations, so I have no doubt it'll take everybody else a little while as well. That's probably about it from me. I just wanted to make sure I sang Roe's praises and her team, and let you know that we're all working very hard. There's lots happening in your space within the department. So thank you.
We've got our next presenter zooming in at 11:30, but we've got 5 minutes. If anybody has anything that they really want to ask of either Catherine or Rowena at this time, we've got a 5-minute window.
Hi, my name's Brian from Sunnybank Green. I think I mentioned it in the Zoom conference we had a couple of weeks ago, the 28th of August. The VCDs, you said you're going to digitise them and do the compliance. We've had a couple of residents move into our village recently, and I asked them, did you look at the VCDs on the website? They had no idea what I was talking about. When I showed them, they said, oh, I wish I had known this was here, and the solicitor would have looked at that. And there it gives you the financials of the village. Now, if they're 3 and 4 years out of date, where's the compliance?
And you're absolutely right, so they should be up to date. As far as the department is concerned, operators need to be updating their VCD at least once every year, so it's whenever there is a material change to the information in the village comparison document. And if they are not keeping it up to date, they should also be providing a copy of that village comparison document to new residents who are coming into the village. That document does not, however, form part of their residence contract. Okay, but it is information that should be provided, but it's not actually part of the contract. So there should be sufficient information in their contract as well, but I'm surprised that they've not seen one, and I'm very interested in having a look to make sure that they do have an up-to-date version of their VCD.
Okay, I've lost it now. With the VCDs, how do we get that information, or how did your department get that information out to prospective buyers that VCD is available for inspection on websites? Is that up to you guys to put it out there in an ad or in newspapers to let people know that it is available? Because other than that, it's just hidden in many other documents.
Okay, scheme operators should know that that's part of their obligation, and it's part of our role to make sure that scheme operators are aware of their obligations under the legislation. The legislation states that they must have a VCD, a current VCD, uploaded to their website, and it should have the current information on it, and it should be available for people upon request. Anyone who comes in to look at the village can request a copy of a village comparison document, and then there is also a prospective costs document that would be specific to a particular unit if they were looking at a particular unit. It is on our website, so there is information on our website, but I understand what you're saying. We do mail-outs to villages, which maybe that's a good reminder mail-out that we need to do, although we do send a reminder every year after 1st of July, we send out a reminder to all of the scheme operators that it's time to update their village comparison documents, and they should make sure it's uploaded to their website. So we're reminding scheme operators, but I take your point that perhaps people that are looking at retirement villages to move into may not be getting enough information in that regard. Thank you.
It's also on ARQ. There's an actual website called the Village Comparison website. You just Google village comparison document, village comparisons or something. Compare retirement villages, and we've got a link to that website, which is you can get from there. It's a little bit like, I think it's a great resource actually. It's a little bit like, the iSelect when you're looking for a health insurance. Yeah, like VCATs. You can put in where you want to live, how much you want to pay, what facilities you want, and all these retirement villages pop up. So, tell your friends if they're looking for a retirement village, it's not just that one village comes up, all of the villages come up on that website. Compare retirement villages. Great website. And there's a link to that site on ARQ's website.
I'm Janice Rossiter from Lady Smallhaven. Just a quick one. Catherine, you keep saying it's on our website. Can you just quickly tell us what your website address details are, please?
Oh, okay, it's just housing, queensland.gov.au. And then you'll have to go to the regulated accommodation section, I think is what it is. My name's
name's Janice, and we moved into Cleveland in 2022. And we went through all the documents. But what has confused me even more since living in the village is that every single person in the village has a different contract or agreement, and some of them go back for 30 years. So therefore, it's very difficult for some of them to come up, get themselves up to date with everything that's happening with exits, with comparison documents, etc.
That is something that we see a lot. So in any retirement village, over time, the scheme operator can make tweaks and changes to residents' contracts within a village. So you might end up with a lot of residents in a village who have quite different contract options. So that's why you need to know what's in your contract. So when it comes to exiting the village or anything like that, make sure you are aware, make sure your family is aware of what's in your contract, make sure they know where to find a copy of your contract, all that sort of thing, so that they can be aware of what the scheme operator obligations are and what your obligations are as a resident. So, and I do understand that that can be confusing, and in fact we have some villages in Queensland that are a mixture of freehold tenure and leasehold tenure, and we've got villages that have got 3 or 4 different body corporates all operating within one village, plus some leasehold contracts as well. So it can become very, very complicated. Just know your own contract.
Okay, I'm sorry, I'm going to have to close the conversation down. Our next speaker is waiting online for us. Thank you, Catherine and Michael and Rowena. Really appreciated you being able to join us this morning. Thank you so much. If anybody has got questions for the department, you would have seen the questions and comments form on your table. If you put your question on there, we will make sure that the department have your question and put your contact number on it. We'll make sure we get an answer for you. Thank you. Okay, our next speaker that I would like to introduce is Stephen Audrey. Now, look, Stephen is a long-awaited guest. Welcome, Stephen. We've all been waiting for you since last AGM. Remember, Stephen talked to us last year about the fact that they were developing a new contents insurance, particularly for people living in a retirement village. I've been harassing Stephen ever since then, and I think he avoids me sometimes. But anyway, Stephen is there, and Stephen is going to tell us finally about the new contract that they're launching. I'll hand over to you, Stephen, and hope we've got sound. Just hold on, we haven't got sound for you.
Talk, Stephen. Can you hear us?
I can hear him very We'll just leave Steve and they've gone out to see if they can connect him to another computer to see if we can. You know, we've been waiting all year for that. All year. Anyway, look, we'll get, certainly, if we don't get to him today, we'll certainly get his information out. The great thing about his, the contents insurance that has been developed is they will cover everything. No questions asked. That you are responsible for, as long as it's in your contract that you are responsible for it, you will be covered for it. So you don't need to go and try and negotiate with other insurance companies as to what they will cover for you. They will just cover everything automatically. So I think that's a great, I don't know the costing of it. He told me a ballpark figure was about $500. But I'll certainly get that information out to you as soon as I can. In the meantime, with another bit of technology, I'd like to invite Mike to the stand. I've forgotten your surname, Mike. Jeffrey. Mike, being dragged kicking and screaming into the tech age, ARQ is looking to develop an app. So Mike is going to talk to you all about the app that we are developing for our members.
Hello everyone. Hey, great to have you here today. I'm Mike. Yes, I do have a mic. And I'm here physically to talk about technology. So got all of my backup plans covered. I work with Plus Communities. We build primarily apps for retirement communities and aged care communities. And we have, through Judy and Jody, the Dubs Jays, formed a bit of a partnership to build an app for ARQ-RV that is being launched in November. And it's this app, which I'm going to run you through some of the features today, is primarily about doing or enabling a lot of the functionality and the activity that the ARQ-RV membership does for you. So I'm going to take you through the features. But before I do that, I've got a question for you. Okay, it's simple, really simple question. And I want you to talk to the person next to you in answering the question. Alright? So what is it that you love about living in your retirement community? Okay, that's the question. Have a discussion with your neighbour about what you love about living in your retirement community. Alright, how did you go? I see you quickly jumped into a discussion, so there must be some things that you love about living in a retirement community. Somebody want to shout out if you've got an answer that somebody might have shared and you thought that's pretty cool. Can you, friendships? Love those friendships. Security and location, freedom, and security. Participation in community. The swimming pool.
The problem here is if you use the word love, great like for something, really passionate. I don't have anything like that in my ability, but I do like a lot of things.
Okay, well, what's something that you like? Doesn't have to be a love. A long list, you don't have to mow the grass. I hear you on that. Yes. Happy hour. As a volunteer, relaxed hours of work. Awesome. So many different things. You're not just living in a building or in an apartment or a villa or a house, you're living in community. And you've chosen to live there for a particular reason. You're not living in an apartment or stay in your own home because of all of those kind of things that you've described. You belong. You enjoy the conversations, the participation, that sense of being known by your neighbours, the ability to rely on each other, to feel safe, to lock up and go if you want to do that road trip or not. And that living in community sometimes is hard. You know, when things go wrong, you have a fight with your neighbour or people aren't nice, but you're living in community, so you try and find ways to work that through. In my case, in terms of what I do, we provide an app that helps communities do communication better. So communicating with staff, communicating with residents, helping you to book into events, get to know your neighbours. We've got a whole bunch of features that work in that direction. With the ARQ-RV membership, you belong, you're a member of, and there are certain things that you want in your membership. You want to be able to get access to information quickly. You want, when you forget, now what was Judy's name or Jodie's name or which was which, I can't remember, or you need to ask somebody a question, how do you find that information, or if you wanted to book into an event that they were organising, or you wanted to stay up to date and get the latest information. The ARQ-RV team put together an app that is coming very soon that has all of that information at your fingertips and makes it much easier to access that information. So as a member, you belong to a community. There's 6,000 of you who are members of ARQ-RV, and it really centralises all of that community member communications. And I'm going to show you, thank you, sorry, Pauline. So in a month's time, not yet, okay, even though you'll be able to find it, you won't be able to log in yet, but there is an ARQ-RV Connect app in the App Store that you'll be able to download. Now, over the next few weeks, there'll be lots of communications in the newsletter, emails, instructions about what to do, how to access it. So it's watch this space, it's coming. But yes, it's available in the App Store, you just won't be able to log in yet, okay? And that's an important thing. If we can, Pauline, next slide. Okay, now, within the app, I'm going to give you a bit of a guided tour today. I'll just get out of the road of the screen a little bit. Sorry. Staring at my backside there, Judy. I'm very sorry. One of the things at the moment is you get a printed newsletter. As you can see in the Treasurer's report, there's a whole bunch of costs associated with that printed newsletter. You'll be able to get access to news on a daily, on a weekly, regular basis. So it makes it really easy for the team to keep you up to date, particularly if there are changes happening that are urgent in nature. It will be really easy to find. You'll be able to react, comment on the news that's happening, ask questions about anything that's published. Go to the next slide. You'll also, which is really important, ARQ runs events at particular times. They've got an interest in running more events, particularly webinars. Maybe the webinar that didn't happen right now can be run at multiple occasions over the coming months. It will be easy for you to book in to that event, see who else is attending, manage your event attendance, which just makes the whole from a staff and a management perspective, much easier to manage if they can manage the booking of those events online, and you can manage it yourself. So you'll be able to go onto the app, click on, okay, I want to go to a particular event, click reserve a spot, and then I'm in, I booked. And then I can even download it to my calendar or let other people know about that particular event if you need to give them a little nudge or a reminder. And if something else comes up, you need to change your attendance, you can cancel as well. Alright, some of the other things inside the app. Now, the team have a whole range of services. For example, we talked about you had speakers from government departments earlier today, and you go, now, what was the name of that website, or where were they? You can go and find those services. You'll be able to click on, click to call in terms of ringing that service, email them, all of that contact information will be there. So it's a great way for ARQRB to list all of the services that they have available that are third-party services, like the government service, or when you need support or help, or you've got a question, or you want somebody to come out and talk to the village, it will be a way for you to access those, book into those services as well. It will also be a spot, that really important membership renewal in terms of links and how to renew your membership. One of the things that I know Judy and Jody are really interested in is getting more feedback, getting connected to what's important to you, so the ability to run surveys. It's a really simple, user-friendly survey tool to get your feedback and get your ideas, thoughts about where you see the ARQRB needs to be heading, and they can gather that information in real time and send out and respond to the feedback that you're providing. Alright, it will also be, and this is really simple but really important, a place for you to access all of those documents that you find useful. So, for example, a residence committee manual. You won't need to go to the website anymore. It will be available for download directly from the app, and you can download it to your app, send it to your computer, print it out, whatever you like. Yep. It's also a really simple way for them to get instant messages to you and alerts. If something like a reminder that this event is happening today. 2 days before, a week or before, don't forget to get your registration in. It's an easy way to send a reminder, and it will appear as an alert on your phone, which just helps, certainly for me. Oh yeah, that's a good point, I do have that event tomorrow, I better not forget about that. Or there's some update to the legislation has happened, and there's a new whatever that's relevant in your context, that it's an easy way to keep you up to date with things. Alright, the other thing that's important is there will be an opportunity to have forums. So if you are a member of the residence committee and there are certain questions that you have, it will be a place for all residence committees or chairpersons or whatever to have different forums to ask questions, provide advice, and really for, in certain cases, for experts to be offering advice in a forum context, so that it's a quick and handy place for you to go and gather information. We've talked about feedback. That's a bit of a double up. So has a whole range of features that are useful in terms of you being a member of this community of ARQRB. That streamlines a whole range of processes for staff, but it also streamlines a whole range of things that you need to do in terms of being a member. It will also provide a whole number of ways for you to interact as a member with this community and to get feedback, to get asked questions, to get Judy or Jody out to your community. If you're a little bit concerned about, oh, this is another app, I'm not really interested, we'll do know that there are tens of thousands of you in retirement communities using an app like this every single day. So know that it's designed and it's very user-friendly. So whilst not all members will be comfortable with the app, most will. And all of the kind of processes that you have about sending out a newsletter will continue, emails will continue. So don't worry, those processes aren't being replaced. This is really preparing for a future where everyone will be very comfortable with an app, and this is a time of transition. The other thing that's important is the team are very keen to get feedback about what's helpful, what's useful, what else might you need or value in terms of the app. See that it's the start of a process, it's not the end of a process in terms of developing out this technology for members. So
Android and iOS?
Yes, both Android and iOS. Apple and you see all phones will be able to access the app. Yes?
Is it a cloud-based system?
So, yes, that's a good point. I'll talk a little bit about security and privacy. It is a cloud-based system in terms of access. If you can go to the next screen. In terms of cybersecurity, one of the things that I know for members and certainly all of our users, security and privacy of data is really important. We've taken this very seriously as a company. We last year got certified for ISO 27001 2022, which is an international security standard. So we have hundreds of policies and procedures that we need to document and follow as a company in order to achieve that particular standard. And we got certified last year, and in actual fact, we just had that certification renewed yesterday and today. And I just found out about 20 minutes ago that that has been reviewed and renewed. So we have passed that certification once again for the next 12 months. So that means that our quality of security for this app, in terms of where your data is stored, is as secure as it possibly can be. That is reasonable for the level of data that we store. So we're not storing health and medical records, for example. So yes. The other thing is, in terms of any of those forums, in an online context, you know, if somebody's being mean to you, you've got an ability to block them. If you see somebody saying something inappropriate, you can flag that so the team can manage content. If you're contributing content or people are commenting and you think it's inappropriate, that can all be managed. And you have tools online where you can flag something or delete it or block it as well. Yes?
Is it password protected for people
Yes. So this community is a closed community. It's not anyone can join. You've got to be a member of ARQRB, and the team, Pauline and Laurie, in terms of managing membership, all of the members' details get added in for the first time. So your first name, last name, email address, mobile phone number, and so when we go live, you'll be sent an email and a text message inviting you to join, and you'll be given an initial one-time password that you are then asked to change to log in. So it's a closed community, no random strangers can join. Yes?
Can I still talk to someone human being?
Sorry?
Calling someone and talk to a human being.
Oh yes, yes, certainly, absolutely. It does. It just assists. It doesn't replace the team or what they do. It's really adding to it to speed up some of the things that you might want to get. So, for example, instead of you needing to ring up to book in to an event, you'd be able to just sit there, press a button, and which just saves a whole bunch of time in terms of efficiencies. So yes, plenty of people contact you, and you'll be able to ring them directly from the app as well. Yes?
Does a couple have access to it?
Yes. So there's some little technical things at the moment. If your membership is for, you're just using one email address for both members, then I'm just giving you an example of, at a technical level, we'll provide some advice about how to manage that. So if you're a couple and one person is you're both using the same email address, then one person will use the email address to log in and the other person will use the mobile phone number. So that will allow both members to log in, as an example. Any other questions about the app?
It's free.
It is free. It's included in your membership fees. Don't worry, there's no additional costs. You don't have to do anything extra. And you don't have to use it. Okay, but we really encourage you to do so. There will be a lot of things coming out on the app that add a lot of value to members. Don't forget, it launches in November, all being well. Thank you very much.
Thank you. So, Steve's just going to do it. Alright, Stephen, we've got you. Stephen's on the screen. Stephen's on the screen. Sorry, I
He's back. Count to 10.
Yes, we're on the screen.
So you're still when you're ready.
You're ready to go.
Right. Fantastic. Well, good afternoon, everybody. Sorry about the technology issues. Hopefully that's all sorted. The presentation today is based on just two quick parts. One is an update, just a very quick update for you all in terms of where the insurance market is at as a whole, in terms of Australia's insurance market for property, especially liability. And the other is to announce the launch of our resident context insurance package, which is officially launching today. We thought it fitting that we wait for the ARQRV AGM for the launch date of the product. So we waited for the 24th of September. So effectively today is the day this product will go live. Just a brief update from our property market. Obviously the property market is what residents obviously bear the brunt of when it comes to insurance costs for the operators. What we're seeing from the insurance market is that premiums are starting to level out. So what does that mean in, I guess, in general terms, is that where we're seeing premiums with average increases above 10 to 15%, we're actually now seeing insurers offer rate rollovers for a maximum of 5% for better performing risks. And what that means to you as a resident is that obviously most insurers, most operators who insure with the large international insurers, their premiums, again, depending on how many claims they've had in the past and how clean their claims history is that their premiums should start to level out or come down. Now we've seen that for a couple of other operators. Again, bearing in mind these operators were not in Queensland, and unfortunately, where you guys live in the sun and the warmth, it also attracts some of the most catastrophic weather cycles that we see in the country. So obviously Queensland is taken with a bit of a different degree of concern, but where we have seen other operators in New South Wales and Victoria, we've been able to see 10% reductions overall in their property insurance. Some considerations for you all as well when looking at increases in premiums, that the insured value or the replacement value of the assets is being taken under higher scrutiny by underwriters at the moment. The reason for that is that the Cornell Commercial Index or Construction Index estimates that there's been an increase of 24% in reconstruction costs of most assets in Australia over the last 3 years. So that means building costs has gone up, labour has gone up, and everything associated with construction, the CPI has increased. So these things need to be considered. So when the operator considers a replacement valuation, these have increased sustainability due to inflationary factors. So where your operator will go for a review of the valuation for insurance purpose, there is likely to come with an increase from the insurance company, or provided the claims history is clean, at least a rate rollover. So things to be considered when you're looking at construction insurance for the next 12 months. From a public liability perspective, general liability premiums continue to climb at an average or modest rate. For your sector, especially retirement living, an average of 5 to 10% increase on the rate, so not the premium, the rate. Very important to differentiate the two. 5% increase on the rate is to be expected this year, purely because of the claims associated with the industry. You don't have many claims, but when there is a claim, it can be quite costly. That's why insurers are putting up the premiums. Now, I guess the most exciting bit of this presentation and the reason why Judy has asked me to come and speak to you all today, contents insurance for residents. As I mentioned before, long-term pulse goes live today to the broader retirement living community. We have had it launched for the last 3 weeks, just testing it behind the scenes to make sure it can deal with various scenarios around the IT and the back office finance, etc. And I'm happy to say that the product is live and it has been tested and it is working. So effective today, you'll be able to go online to our site and actually test the price of the contents insurance for residents in retirement villages. A couple of the key outlines and key takeaways of this is that the cover benefits extremely competitive premium has been benchmarked across the industry, across various different markets, be it RA, CQ, APR, NRMA, CGU, everyone you can imagine we've tested against, and we have come up better on the level of cover that we provide. We provide accidental damage cover that no one else provides in the market. We also offer flexible cover for medical aids, glasses, hearing aids, mobility scooters, whatever it may be, also covered from $2,500 to the value. We also have an inclusion of fixtures and fittings which you don't see across the market as well. So we cover solar panels, water tanks, pergolas, or any additional improvement to your unit that has been approved by the operator. This policy will cover. The system is online, or there's also a number that you can call to get a quote. It's important to note that cover is exclusively available for residents of retirement villages only across Australia. Why is that important? Because you're not thrown into the overall Australian market for 100 contents. We understand that a village risks is very different to a standard 100 contents policy. Villages are much more secure. You don't see as many burglaries, if any. Most of the claims come from water damage or leaky pipes or accidental damage to which this policy has not come before. The email address is there on the screen if you want to note it down, www.rocktonpulse.com, and the phone number is 1-800-785-735. That number is a call center for you to reach out to if you want to understand more about the product. But if you go on the website, you walk on our devices, like the gentleman before speaking about IT, you walk on our devices in our laptops, in our computers, in our phones, that site is live and it gives you a lot more information around what the product is and how it is suitable for you and your insurance needs. Now that's it. I left my presentation quite short to see whether anyone had any burning questions they wanted to ask me between now and 12:30. Happy to open it to the floor, Judy, or whether is there any question?
Any questions of Stephen? No, you must have done okay, Stephen. There's no questions. Oh, no, sorry, I spoke to Stephen.
Thanks, Stephen. Thank you for that presentation. It's very good. We actually don't own the building. We have solar panels on the roof. Very few companies will insure the solar panels because we don't own the building. We can only get it through a contents insurance. Would you cover the solar panels through a contents insurance policy only?
So, provided you are in the unit, obviously you don't own the building, the operator owns the building. You own the contents. As part of this product, for Option Pulse, solar panels are an optional cover to which you can select. Even though you don't own the building, you can cover your solar panels.
Well, yes, you can.
Thank you. Yes, exactly right. Yes, you can. I mean, to be clear, to be honest with you all, this product has taken some time. We wanted to get it right. We wanted to build it so that it was correct, that it met the needs of the residents, rather than just putting out another contents offering that exists in the market with the same offering as everybody else, because it wouldn't have done it justice. And that's why it's taken some time. I know Judy and I were talking about this 12 months ago, but we've now finally got live, as I said, tested in the market, and there is no cover out there that matches this cover for residents of retirement villages.
Stephen, I've got another one here as well.
Stephen, who is the overall underwriter of this insurance policy?
The product is underwritten by an underwriting agency called Blue Zebra, who is backed by Unity Insurance. Everyone knows Unity. Unity is a big South African firm, AA plus better rating in Australia, so Unity backed the product ultimately.
Hi Steve, Rob speaking, Twin Waters. Steve, the valuations that we're going to put on how we cover ourselves for this policy, you mentioned in your earlier screen, we have to be within 80% of the value to avoid self-insurance clauses applying.
But again, accounting units are struggling to do.
Sorry, is that better?
That's better, thank you.
Okay. In your earlier screen, you indicated that the insured value had to be within 80% of reality to avoid basically a self-insurance clause being activated. Now, with fittings, furnishings and fixtures, etc., that you're covering, these will vary from villa to villa and apartments and all the rest of it. How do we arrive at the correct value to add on to our contents to make sure these things are covered?
I'm sorry, it's cutting it out. So I'm assuming you're talking about fixtures and fittings and how do we ensure that none of those apply is correct for your villa, is that correct?
Sorry, can you say that slowly, please?
Sorry, I said yes. So the thing is, are we talking from a building perspective or talking from a contents perspective?
No, I'm talking contents. Because if we're going to take that...
So how do you make sure, and very much so, you know, when we apply for our contents insurance, it's very much a guesstimate, right? It's very much a how much you think you've acquired in the last 10 years you're insuring for. Now, there is an element within this policy that allows for any what we call encroachment. So in other words, if you estimate 40,000 and there's a total loss, it's thinking 55,000, there is an element of a buffer that it allows for it to have, innocent non-disclosure of the value that you are unsure of. Now, what we do say is that when you do your renewal every year, have a look around your home and see what products are the most expensive that you have that would ultimately have to be replaced in the event of a claim. Then for a water damage claim, obviously bearing in mind that you have to insure often assets contents that it's not necessarily yours, that's owned by the operator. I suggest is that at your risk and audit committee meeting or your finance meeting or your insurance committee meeting, that question should definitely be asked to the operator and the village manager to make them understand, okay, so through your asset management plan, I know in New South Wales it's easier because they have asset management plans, but through your management of your asset, Mr. Operator, how much do you envisage that each unit requires to ensure contents that A, are required by contract? That's the question. We're working with a couple of operators across Australia that we are having a conversation with them to see how much they're required to insure or how much they request that their residents insure the contents from the contract.
Yeah, well, you've pretty much got it. Most of us can estimate what our own contents cover is, and we can review that each year. The question I'm really trying to get to, or the matter I'm trying to get to, is you're covering all the extras that our contract says we have to cover that are already insured under the industrial special risk for the village itself. But because the contract has made us liable for furniture, fittings and fixtures, including solar panels, etc., there is a value involved. Now, if I'm going to insure my contents for, say, 120,000, how much do I have to add to that so that I don't fall foul of your 80% rule?
That's a question. That's a great question, and actually that's one duty. And if you could send me that in writing, because I'll respond to that gentleman in writing, because that's a very good question and it applies to a lot of people. And just one thing. Where your operator allows for your I guess extension or your enhancements to be covered under the ISR, it's important to also know as to what the deductible that they're requiring to be covered under the ISR is. Right, so it's great to have it covered under the ISR, but what's the deductible? Is there a storm deductible? What's the all other deductible? On this policy, there's one deductible for all these enhancements. So it's important for us to cross-reference and verify what is the better output for you. And again, bear in mind, I don't know which operator and how it works. Often the ISR is across all villages and all residents. So in essence, some enhancements are being paid for across the whole village, as opposed to you paying for your own under your own content. But that's a great question. I'd love to get that in writing so I can respond to you more formally, because that 80-20 is very much a pertinent matter that needs to be discussed.
Okay, thank you.
No, I'm sorry, I'm going to have to stop this conversation, Stephen.
What you do is our operator is not available on their website.
Your operator is not available on their
I've just
website.
gone onto the website to have a look, and our operator is not listed.
Look, we'll follow up for you. I'm aware that we've still got some voting to do, and we've only got about 10 minutes left to do it. Stephen, I will take any other questions in writing and forward them on to you. That comment just was from that gentleman that his operator wasn't listed on your website. I didn't think that was particularly relevant, but anyway, we'll ask the question. Okay, and Stephen, we might take up your offer of doing a webinar just on insurance at some stage. We'll have a Zoom meeting and it will just be a better forum than if we use Zoom.
Fantastic.
Okay. Thanks so much, Stephen. Thank you for your time. Okay, I'm sorry we're moving things on a little bit. We just need to get this voting done. We will look at running a webinar, a Zoom webinar, or a Zoom forum where we invite Stephen and anyone who's particularly interested in insurance to meet with him and ask questions. If we have lots of people who want to do the insurance forum, we will actually run a couple of sessions. So I'm going back to our agenda item on the general business on voting for changes to our constitution. So I just want to, you've all been given voting paddles, I just want to talk a little bit about this motion that we are proposing. I want to note that a letter was received from Mike Fairbairn, who some of you might remember was a past Vice President. Mike has written to say that he opposes the special resolution because the executive director is from outside of the association and there will be significant costs to the association's funds. And he also is opposed to allowing operators to join the association. So I just want to record that we did mention Mike Fairbairn's letter. I want to talk to you about the reason for the changes that ARQ put forward. So the major changes was for the clauses about the committee. And we've asked to include, to firstly, in the changes, to remove or to only make one vice president in the association instead of two vice presidents. Now, we had two vice presidents in the past. That came out of the times when we had the vice presidents actually dealt with the disputes, and we had someone on the north side and someone on the south side who were dealing with disputes. That's why we had two vice presidents. We would like to remove and just have one vice president and change the duties of committee members. If you look on the back of your agenda, we've written the changes to the Constitution. So that first change is purely, all the changes that you will see in red is just taking off two vice presidents and adding one vice president. We've also, in that motion, put forward the proposition that the committee shall have the authority to appoint a person from time to time to assist the committee in the business or operations of the association for the purposes within the objectives of the association. That was really all about the appointment of the executive director, who will move into, who is currently employed through the quota money, but we would like to see her actually step into a more active role in this organisation. What many of you don't actually realise, as the president of this association, I run a business. So you just see me doing the stuff that I do for ARQ. You don't see that we have an office with 2 staff and that I have to run those staff as a business. I have to comply with the ATO. I have to make sure we are compliant with all our reporting that we have to do. I have to comply with the operations of Fair Work Australia and ensure that we're paying our staff members the right amount of money and that that's reviewed every year. I have to deal with the rents, I have to deal, so everything, if you've not thought about it, that's what I'm doing, as well as going out to villages, representing you to government, representing us to industry. I can't continue to do it. It is a huge job that I'm carrying now, and I've been doing it for 10 years. It's not something I can continue to carry on my own, and it's not something, as many of you are aware, I did try at one stage to actually break that position up, to put in an office manager, and I stepped back as industry representative. That didn't work. It's not a volunteer position anymore to run an organisation. The size and the professionalism that ARQ now operates at, we cannot do that just with volunteers. So the model that I'm proposing is to have an executive director that will run the business of the organisation. The committee of ARQRV will continue to be residents of retirement villages. That committee, and if any of you have worked in your past lives with sort of organisations where there was a committee that ran the business and set strategic direction, so our committee, the ARQ committee, will continue to set the strategic direction. That committee will continue to do village visits and deal with issues that are raised by members. The only difference is in having an executive director that someone will take over running the business of the organisation. And that is the reason for that proposal for the change. So the proposition is as stated, that the committee shall consist of a president, a vice president, a treasurer, and up to a maximum of 8 other members, and the secretary is not required to be a member of the association. You will see those motions put down there, and the answer that I will go to vote in a moment is yes or no, that you approve that change to the Constitution. The second motion is that a few years ago we put to you that we wanted to have included in our Constitution a category for associate members. And that associate member category was actually introduced because we had a number of family members that were contacting ARQ, and the family members lived interstate. And they were concerned that they didn't really understand retirement villages. They didn't understand, because their parents were living up here in Queensland, they didn't understand if they had to come up. They just had no real knowledge of the place where their parents were living. So we had introduced associate members as a family member of someone living in a retirement village. We also introduced an associate member as someone who was wanting to move into a retirement village, but they were seeking ARQ's assistance to just sort of guide them in things like VCDs, what to look for, and so on. And that associate member has been in place now for a number of years. The motion this year was to add a retirement village, a person in a retirement village who is a representative of the scheme operator. Now I say that particularly to try and support, we put that motion forward, particularly to try and support residents' committees. One of the things we find is that when we send out our Connect newsletter and other information to residents' committees. Excuse me. Residents' committees get that. They understand the information. They go to their village manager, and often their village manager does not have the skills or the knowledge to know what the resident is talking about, or the residents' committee is talking about. The only thing different for in this membership category, having, say, the village manager as an associate member, is the village manager will now get a copy of the newsletter. That's the only difference. The village managers all have access to our website. We do not have a locked website. So the only difference for a village manager to become an associate member is they will now receive our newsletter emailed to them. We haven't discussed it, but they may even receive access to the app, I would think. But that was the only difference. We will not assist village managers in the same way that they do with currently do with our members. We do assist village managers, however, when they're dealing with residents' committees, because we often work with residents' committees and their village manager to get the committee to function more effectively in any situation. You will also remember that a few years ago, because we were quite upset that we were putting all this information and telling residents' committees all about, what parts of the Act they had to comply with and what parts of the Act their village managers should comply with. And what we found was village managers were saying, well, we didn't know we had to comply with that. So a few years ago, being quite cheeky, we actually wrote a book for village managers called Guidelines for Village Managers Working with Residents' Committees. We sent that off to the Property Council, and the Property Council sent it off to their solicitors, and they were quite happy as long as we only called it guidelines and we weren't telling village managers how to do their role. But what we were telling village managers is, when you're working with residents' committees, these are the parts of the Act that you must comply with. So we've been selling that, and I think you saw Les talk to today that it was the supplies that we have done. So village managers can buy from us a village manager pack, which contains a copy of the Residents' Committee Manual, a copy of the Guidelines for Village Managers Working with Residents' Committees, a handy reference to the Act, and also a copy of the Expenditure Guidelines. And village managers pay $200 for that. That's certainly not the cost that we sell our Residents' Committee Manual to residents' committees. All of them get one free copy. If village managers want, they pay for it. So that was the reason we put in a person in a retirement village can be an associate member who is a representative of a scheme operator. Those are the two motions that we are going to put to you. We've received a number of proxy votes, and we have also received a number of postal votes. Those postal votes have already been counted. The postal votes were counted last night. We took the votes that we had received, the postal votes that we had received, to a JP, and the JP tallied up the postal votes along with the actual voting sheets that we had. So I have the results of those, and we will add the results of the postal vote to the vote count that is done today. So I'm going to put those two motions to the village. You want to speak? Well, I don't think we need to work from Jodie. No, Jodie doesn't need to speak. We're voting on whether, the role that we're talking about. I do actually will open it if anybody's got any questions that they want to make about the two roles. Where's ours? It's there.
I just need to understand that we're putting forward a motion, and it's quite a significant motion to some of us. And I'm just wondering, seeing it's in our constitution, if a special resolution is enough, because we haven't got that many people here, to make the change that way.
We are compliant with the special resolution under the Retirement Villages Act. Everybody had the opportunity to make a proxy vote. Remember, in the Connect, in the AGM, proxy votes were put forward, and a number of people did put in a proxy vote. So,
I've got another one, Judy.
I've been corrected. It's in the Associations and Corporations Act, not the Retirement Villages Act. Over here.
Thank you, it's Marilyn again, Judy. Could you just clarify for me, because I think I just need some clarification in my head in terms of motion 2, the proposal there for associate member, where it says any person in a retirement village who is a representative of a scheme operator. So can I be clear there that it's really the managers of the retirement village and not a representative of the larger organisation who does not live in the village?
Well, most of the managers don't live in the village anyway, but they are connected with a village, and it would certainly not be open to the CEOs or the operations manager and so on. And maybe when I read that, we should have actually specified retirement village manager. I'm sorry. This is our guy who speaks to.
I'll speak to that.
Thank you.
The clause actually says any person in a retirement village. I would assume that would be the manager in the retirement village who is a representative of the scheme operator.
Not necessarily. You didn't state that.
If a person is a representative of a scheme operator, they have to have some standing with the scheme operator.
No. Can I suggest?
Who would you be talking about? Would Mark like to answer this question? A representative of a scheme operator. Who would be a representative of a scheme operator?
Anyone.
No. The scheme operator would not say you're my representative to a resident.
Without notice, that the scheme operator, we know who the scheme operator is. Okay? So what this is saying is any person in the retirement village who is a representative of that operator. So any person in a retirement village, so that would be a manager, for example, it could be the cleaner, could be the cook, could be the caretaker, but I wouldn't have thought those people that the scheme operator would want to nominate up to be involved as an associate member. So I'm just saying I wouldn't have thought so, but I don't know. I don't have the answer to that. I'm sorry.
Well, my question back would be, I don't think in these circumstances we can assume anything, and I would certainly like to see it spelled out much more clearly. We know from past experience and we know from the wider world, where there's a wormhole, someone will get into it. And I'm not trying to be cynical there, I'm just really trying to protect all of us. So my suggestion is that the wording is made much clearer and tighter.
Look, there's no argument that can always be made more clearer. And unfortunately, you've got two lawyers here, and so we'll come up with 4 or 5 different variations of that. But you're right, I mean, things can always be more clearer. The intention is not for the for the cleaner or the gardener. The intention, obviously, is for the manager, but not the CEO or Aveo or Palm Lake or something like that. And I dare say you wouldn't see them in Cooee anyway. But I'm just saying. So I know what the intent is, but I hear your point. So
why don't you just add the word management before representative? Because the court's not going to be a management representative.
No, but it's rather like a court resolution or not. It's a special resolution, we have to get 21 days.
Yeah, so bottom line is if you've got difficulty with the wording and you vote against it because of that, but otherwise you like the intention, you need to then consider your position, and then if it fails, then another motion put up. So, yeah. Or
may I ask, please, Meg Scott from Welleron Park, may I ask if the intended benefit to operators is simply a newsletter?
That's all.
Well, why don't you just, in a communications effort, send all the operators a newsletter? There's no need for them to be an associate member for that to happen. The committee has the ability to spend the association's money in whichever way it determines for the objectives to be met. And that's clearly an ability to send out a newsletter to all the operators. Why the need for this, which complicates matters quite severely?
Take your point, Meg.
John McInnes, I come from North West. I have concerns about allowing managers of retirement villages to become associate members. I was an associate member of an organisation, and I was under no illusions as to what my role was. I was there to help them with their legitimate concerns, but I was there mainly to look after the interests of the company that employed me. And I was able, in a number of circumstances, to influence conversations inside that organisation. And I don't think that we should be heading down that way.
Point taken, thank you.
Madam Chairman, Bruce Evans, Gardens on Linfield. Two motions, I guess, that you're going to put them both together, one after the other, or individually.
Individually.
Motion number one. The retirement industry is becoming larger in this state, which is a great state. The number of retirement villages can only grow commensurately. The demographic trend towards an older population in Australia. Retirees are moving to Queensland state, particularly from the southern states, due to our warmer climes and financial and economic surrounds. Queensland is a large state. In fact, Queensland is the only state that has more regional people than the state capital. What I'm saying, Madam Chairman, is that dropping one person, such as a Vice President, means that there is more load going to be placed. And I know that the previous situation with Mike was that he looked after and he was a past president. But you still have two vice presidents for which you, as the president, can pass information and things on to. Why reduce the number when we have a valid situation of north and south now? We are getting bigger. We need this organisation to be strong. The general practice would be to split the state into two, for which we have at the moment. And I make a note that some larger scheme operators have already moved in this direction
of having regional people in this state into 2. Motion number 2. It is applauded that the scheme operators and their staff are utilising the knowledge and information of the ARQRB. This illustrates the depth of knowledge, the understanding and the information relating to the retirement villages, and can put them on the right track in circumstance that would assist them per se. It is imperative, therefore, that the association remain independent and outside any intrusion or conflict in order to represent and be the voice of the village, resident and member. Such an alteration to our constitution would lead to hindrance, meddlesomeness of this association. They might not be able to vote, but they've got a voice, they've got information. Do we want them to be part of our voice? The current objective in our constitution is to remain financially and constitutionally independent from bodies involved in the development and or management of retirement villages, quote unquote. This would appear to be the most appropriate. Madam Chairman, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Bringing scheme operators or their representatives who are salaried persons into a situation such as this is perhaps a conflict of interest. Is that right, Mike? The ARQRB arena is simply driving a wedge between the ARQRB and the individual member by allowing additional people such as representatives of the scheme operators into our business. Village staff are now able to obtain information from the independent website and will use a willing resident member to access any other information that they need. It's there now. If it ain't broke, why fix it?
Can I ask you just to move along, please? It's nearly 10 to 1, so we've just a little bit over time.
I will conclude, Madam Chairman, by saying there is no win-win position here. It is more likely influencing a situation of less independence and become a retrograde step for the individual resident because of this constitutional move. Let us not amend our focus and protection from the individual and the association for the sake of chasing the ideology which seems to be coming from some government sources. I would recommend very much people be very careful and vote against this motion. Thank you, Madam.
Thank you.
Thank you, Arthur Taylor from Park Vista in Holland Park. I'm speaking against motion 2, specifically the membership of the associate members. There's no limitation there as to the number. We're limited to 1 membership per unit. There is nothing there saying only 1 member per village. There is no notification or any details there as to if the person leaves, their membership is sacrificed. There needs to be a lot more thought or detail before it can go to a vote.
Thank you.
Thank you. My name's Hilton Conroy. I was on the committee of ARQ for about 3 years. I've been in the village for about 10. My background is in all kinds of accounting and government departments and so on. I was very much involved in making grants to numerous organisations. They all had conditions implied or specific. They all tied them down. Even when there were no documents handed to them, the conditions tied them down. I'm worried about what I call the disease of grants, grants dependence that the ARQ is moving into.
I'd rather be seeing them launch a massive campaign to get new members on an annual basis, particularly because the big amount of money we got when I was on a committee, that's stopped. There's only about 1,000 members now who are paying membership every year. So if you want to give them a reason to join, they'll join. I got about a dozen when I was at LO for years at the village I was at, and that was because I tried all the time to give them examples, one after another, where Mike in particular had helped people in various problems. And I did too, because I used to do budgets with John School, as you know. But that's why they would join if they saw something happening. They always said to me, why should I join? I've got a great residence villa. We've got a North Lakes, for instance. They'd say that to me all the time. We've got one or two here today. Now, the thing is, give them a reason and they'll join. At the moment, that is not happening. All this high-level stuff is dangerous. The other thing then, quickly, I'll just get on with my backside again, that is getting into bed with having people from the village operators who are associate members is a bit like, cutting up to a snake. They've got different objectives altogether. Their profit is what they're about. Ours is to have a happy life in the village. Okay, so think twice about that one.
Okay, thank you, Hilton. Okay, so let's put the motions forward. Motion 1, Peter and Jodie at the back will be the scrutineers. 1 vote per accommodation unit, and if you have a proxy, please hold up the additional paddles that you may have as a proxy. So, motion 1, that the clauses 4.1, 4.5a, 4.6b and 5.1b of the Constitution be amended as was shown, and that the new clause 4.4f as shown be inserted. Those in favour of the vote, those in favour, please raise your hands up.
Please hold up.
Okay. Those against? Okay, thank you. The second motion, that that clause 2E reproduced below, as you saw, be repealed, and that a new clause 3D3 be shown, be inserted. Those in favour? Those against? and Jody, can we get together and include those postal votes that have already been received? While we're waiting for those votes to be counted, we're going to have to cut Jody, I'm afraid. We're running so short on time. Jody was going to talk to us about the Energy for Seniors grants. We would just ask you though, on that sheet that you've got of questions and comments, if you live in an embedded network, could you just write the name of your village and say embedded networks? We're trying to chase, ARQ is mainly dealing with the embedded networks, COTA is dealing with all the others. So would you believe that there is nowhere in any of the government departments that they can tell us how many embedded networks there are in Queensland? Nobody knows. Tell them what an embedded means. I think people who live in an embedded network understand an embedded network. An embedded network is where you buy the electricity directly from your operator, and your operator bills you. Otherwise, you have your bill with AGL and so on, an origin. But most people, that's fine. So we are trying to find out more about embedded networks. Anyway, we'll make sure that Jody gets information out to you. The count. Not quite.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Jodie Dorrell. I started with ARQ as the Executive Director role in late May. Sorry, is that better? I was told yesterday I need to project my voice further. I don't think my family want me to project my voice any further, so I won't try to scream at you. Just wanted to quickly share with you some information about the work we're doing with Council on the Ageing. We are delivering a project called Energy for Seniors. Some of you may have already grabbed the paperwork from up the back, some resources for you. I've been working alongside the project lead at CODA for 3 days a week since I commenced at ARQ. And then 1 day a week I've been working alongside Laurie and Pauline in the office and the committee. So yeah, we just wanted to share with the purpose of the project for Energy for Seniors is to ensure concession card holders are aware of all the rebates and energy rebates available to them. So on the paperwork and the resources at the back of the room, if you'd like to get one on the way out, there's a sheet that's got all the concessions that Queenslanders are eligible for. and there's a few other little things that might be there to help you as well. But I'd be happy to come and run a session at your village if you are interested. Just yell out or contact me directly, or you can talk to the ladies at the office. They can pass your details on to me and I can contact you. So it's a very exciting project that we're involved in, and yeah, the first phase is talking about the rebates and concessions, and then we'll move into how you can be more energy efficient. So if anyone would like to know further information, please call out or grab me on the way out if you like. That would be really good. I actually did have a really good PowerPoint to share with you, so you'll have to invite me to your village now so I can present it. And please be aware too, it's not just embedded networks that we're working with. We can deliver the session to anyone. I'll just share with you some of the rebates while we're waiting for the count to finish. We know eligible Queensland pensioners and seniors can receive electricity rebate of $372 a year. There is also a reticulated gas rebate of $89 that you can be eligible for as well. There's also rebates for medical cooling and heating. There's electricity life support concessions. It doesn't look like any of you provide that in this room today. Home energy emergency assistance scheme. So there's a whole heap of things that you might not have been aware of. There is a Commonwealth one for equipment as well. So maybe you're eligible to get a rebate for that. That might be for a CPAP machine, for example. Of course, there is eligibility requirements. But yeah, you might find that you're eligible for some of those rebates. So yeah, I urge you to yell out to me to come and have a yarn. I'd love to have a coffee or a cuppa, and I look forward to working with you in the capacity as ARQ as well. Thank you.
I told you I couldn't deal with figures. I don't know why they asked me to even think about it. Okay, well, neither of the motions got up. Okay? We got 50 for vote. Did you add sorry people, did you add the postal votes to this? You did.
They're already on the sheet there.
They're on the sheet. So 50 votes yes for motion 1 and 25 no for the first motion, 25 yes for the second motion and 52 no for the second motion. Okay? Yes, 75%. Sorry, we're doing this whole adding up thing. 75% of the number of votes received. Look at you all counting them. Second motion didn't get up, and I would have thought the first one would have got up. But I don't understand where the postal votes went to, that was all. I definitely can't add up. Okay, so neither of those motions got up. Thank you very much for coming. We will see you. Oh, we haven't done the election yet.
Thank you, Judy, for handing the chair over to me for the election part of the meeting. We'll be able to do this very quickly because we'll treat the incoming committee and the positions of President, Vice President and Treasurer all together. So there is only single nominations for President. That was Judy Mayfield. Single nomination for Vice President, which is Brian Mackay. Treasurer, one nomination, that was Lynn Anville. The committee members that were nominated are Ray Jordan, Frank Tanny, Robert Jackson and Virginia Bergman. So I have pleasure in declaring the positions from the past year vacant and the incoming committee and executive as I've just listed. Thank you very much.
Our next AGM will be in September next year at Hedgel Wable. Thank you.